There was a boy who was sleeping at this time. His name is Woojoo. Then, some random guy's shadow appeared at the doorstep. Woojoo started asking why it was so bright, but actually, that guy was his father. His father started scratching his head and said that he was sorry because he had worked himself to death. Woojoo was confused and started asking his dad why he was acting like that, because if Woojoo's father chose to go to afterlife, he would be left alone. His dad left him with something, although he knew it was not much. He asked Woojoo if he could settle with that. His dad had worked himself to death writing web novels. Something in his dream, there was a gift left. It was a mysterious key. Then, someone patted Woojoo's shoulder, saying there was nothing to worry about because all of the protagonists of his father's web novels would be his friends. Woojoo, who was still an innocent child, had no idea what the demon army they mentioned actually was. 10 years later, Woojoo turned into a fine young man. Then he saw some posters pasted on the wall of his door. This annoyed Woojoo, and he started pulling them down because they were still pasting posters even in this digital age. And Woojoo thought they were mocking him openly. He started crumpling all those posters, saying he was so unlucky because he was about to be kicked out for not paying rent. Woojoo decided to watch some short advertisements. On the television, the broadcaster was saying they were about to introduce an amazing item this time. They started talking about the original version of the national game entitled The Another World, and they mentioned that it was actually from a web novel. But Woojoo was sick of seeing that advertisement about that game again and again. There was one more legacy that his father left behind: the hyper virtual reality device. His dad's web novel, The Another World, was made into a game and became a huge hit. But for Woojoo, that web novel and game had nothing to do with him, because even though his father was the author of that hit web novel, he was still eating noodles every day. The broadcaster said it was a hot topic these days. She also mentioned that she had heard the price of the key, which had a book supplement, was skyrocketing. They also noticed that there was a diary lock on the side. The broadcaster started saying they were about to sell that book, which was a limited edition, but there was no key to go with it. Woojoo was amazed because he heard that the price of that book was the same as the price of a modern computer. After that, Woojoo realized something related to the key he was wearing. He also started to realize that when it came to limited edition books, he had some at home, especially in the study that was full of his dad's web novels. He started looking at the shelves for limited edition books. There was a familiar cover of a hard book that looked like the one he saw in the advertisement, but it was a different work. It was a book entitled Surviving as the Strongest in the World of the Strongest. He noticed that it had a lock attached to it. Now that he saw it, he remembered this title. When he was young, he used to shorten it to Giving One's Best, Living One's Best. It was a Munchkin story with crazy power inflation. In that web novel, even the kids in the neighborhood could beat up dragons. It was a world where overpowered characters were commonplace. Woojoo started thinking that maybe with that key, he might be able to make some money. He began opening the book, thinking he might turn his life around or at least pay the overdue rent. He was begging and wishing while slowly opening the book, and to his shock, the book opened. A bright light appeared that hurt his eyes. He started asking why there was a flash impact like a movie opening. He thought the creators might be insane. He was speechless, but there was nothing inside the case, and he didn't see the key either. The inside of the box was empty, just like his brain. He starts looking for something, thinking that he definitely had it before he opened that book. Suddenly, a notification pops up saying that a gift has arrived. It was a special gift for Woojoo. The system asks him to press the accept button if he wants to open it. He starts to question what kind of gift it is. Then the system notifies him that a daily quest has arrived for Kim Woojoo. He was quite shocked that even in this situation, there's a daily quest appearing right now. He thinks that maybe he kicked the key away when he was blinded by the flash earlier. He decides to find the key later, so he put down the book. He starts putting on the virtual reality device because he needs to complete the daily quest to at least get a meal. If he skips it, even a cup of noodles will be out of reach. That is how tedious his low-level life is. For him, even if it's just a little money, he still can't quit. As he puts on the virtual reality device, the system notifies him that he will be connected to the another world. The system advises him to maintain a comfortable posture. Still, he is happy, thinking that the key is really amazing. After finishing the daily quest, he plans to check the market price. As soon as he enters, he remembers about the gift and starts to question why it keeps popping up, thinking it was a new type of spam. Now, Woojoo arrives in the virtual reality world. But since the system continuously asks to open the gift, he thinks it is really suspicious. He starts to question if he should accept it or not, but since the notifications are too annoying, he decides to just accept it. Then someone starts appearing. He is confused about what that being is. It was actually a beautiful lady who was asking where she was right now. Woojoo was quite shocked, asking what is the kid in front of him. She has black hair with a red hue, long white hair, a distinctive shoulder symbol, and golden eyes. For him, there's no way for that to happen. Then she starts calling her name Lucia. The demon starts gasping, asking Woojoo how he knows the name of the Great Demon King. Woojoo still can't believe that the final boss of surviving as the strongest in the world of the strongest, the Great Demon King Lucia, who made the hero struggle till the end, is in front of him. For him, there's no way for that to happen, because it is a completely different work to begin with. But looking at the face of Lucia, he starts to question the synchronization. It is pretty high, and each detail is customized well. Lucia starts shouting, questioning who is this guy in front of her, because she was just about to be executed by the heroes. Woojoo is amazed because even her speech style is perfectly spot on. But he almost threw up earlier. He just survived thanks to the Iron Mask skin. Woojoo tells Lucia that he has a daily quest to do now. But Lucia couldn't believe it. She asks the guy in front of her if he is a god, because she was about to get killed by those heroes and was transported to some strange place. Well, considering he is the original author's child, he introduces himself as a god and tells Lucia that he has to clear a quest. He says that this is a wyvern nest, and staying there for too long is dangerous. Lucia shouts, asking him if he is truly a god. She asks Woojoo if he is truly a god, and wants him to tell her about the first words she uttered when she was born 30,000 years ago as an ancient being. She asks what were those words and warns Woojoo that if he can't answer, he will be severely punished for pretending to be a god. Woojoo knows that's the line Lucia says every time she introduces herself in the original work. So Woojoo says that her first words are, "My magic eye see everything." Hearing that, Lucia falls to her knees. She guesses that she must really be dead. Woojoo thinks that it is true because some people are stuck in this game out of their slavery for their livelihoods. He thinks that it is great to play around with these concepts. Then a sudden wyvern appears at the side of the MC. Woojoo starts panicking, asking why the wyvern is there. He is about to go crazy, saying all the curses. But with the iron mask skin he is wearing, it maintains a poker face in any situation. For him, there is no way to die because he would lose 30% of his experience in gold, and he wouldn't be able to pay the rent or the utility bills. As the wyvern starts screeching, Woojoo starts asking for help, pleading with someone to please save him. Lucia starts to question why a mere lizard has started targeting them. She warns the lizards that if they don't want to be wiped out, they should back off. Woojoo, quite perplexed, starts to question why Lucia is sticking to the concept even in a situation like that. Then, like the greatest manipulator, Lloyd Frontera, Woojoo starts his speech. He says that the only one who can bring about the end is the Great Demon King Lucia. Woojoo says that he can't deceive someone with magic eyes like Lucia's, so he's telling the truth that yes, he is a god. He then points at the wyvern, saying that a god cannot use their power in this world, and asks if she could handle those creatures for him. Woojoo thinks it's quite cringy to act like a god, but in order to survive, he has to match the concept. However, Lucia says that she can't do that. Woojoo thinks that this demon queen is quite useless, so he tells her to shut up and get lost. Lucia says it's unfortunate that she can't use divine power for similar reasons, because the heroes sealed her powers with their cunning tricks. Lucia says that's the only way those bastards could deal with her invincible self, because if it weren't for that, there wouldn't be a race of those things left. But Woojoo doesn't care what Lucia is saying. All he needs to do is run. He uses Lucia as bait, praying that this concept freak will be the wyvern's target. That's the only survival plan he thinks of. But Woojoo is so unlucky. He starts cursing because of his bad luck, as the wyvern is chasing him to the end. Lucia starts boasting, saying that the heroes are just foolish, and that they made a mistake. She explains that the reason she became the king of the demon world, even without using her own power, is because she can bestow it on someone. That's how she created the Hell Legion. Lightning starts gushing out from her horns. She says that is her power enhancement. She tells Woojoo that if he can't use divine power in this world, how about borrowing the power of the Demon King? Woojoo is hit by the lightning that Lucia releases, which leaves him confused. He starts to question what that was, but he also feels that his body feels so light. Then he suddenly blinks into somewhere else. The wyvern is quite shocked that the prey it had its eyes on suddenly went missing. Using her magical eyes, Lucia tracks where Woojoo is. She says that her eyes can see everything and starts to question Woojoo, asking why he is in a place where it's hard to breathe, unless that place is where he truly belongs, the divine realm. But Woojoo is quite confused, wondering where the hell he is. As he looks at his surroundings, he realizes he is on a large asteroid and can see the rings of Saturn. He starts to question why there's a sudden outer space experience. He's confused, asking where the wyvern is, but blood starts gushing out of his mouth, and he suddenly feels he can't breathe, and it's so cold. He starts to question if the device is broken, but luckily, this bastard slips, and as he slips back, he is suddenly transported back to the original world, where the wyvern is waiting, and Lucia is cheering that he came back again. He starts to question the distance of one step. Lucia asks him how it feels to receive the power of bestowal. Woojoo is quite confused, asking what the power of bestowal is. But Woojoo starts panicking because now he is back right in front of the wyvern. For him, he must run, or else he will be eaten. This cycle continues again and again, going back to outer space and returning to the original planet. The cycle of danger in space continues. Because of this, the wyvern starts to get annoyed, as they feel that somehow this is so frustrating. Then the wyvern starts surrounding this poor low-level character. For Woojoo, even one step, and it's over. He remembers the time Lucia mentioned the power of bestowal earlier, as that's the unique ability of the Great Demon King in the novel. But still, he can't believe that the Great Demon King Lucia is here. The strongest from another original work appears in that game. He thinks that this Demon King has completely entered the wrong genre. The original, surviving as the strongest in the world of the strongest, is the spiciest of his dad's overpowered novels, even featuring a character who can catch a dragon in that world. At that time, his father was quite problematic, overthinking the first episode, which started with a village kid beating up a dragon. Woojoo was actually worried about power inflation, and if the strongest of the strongest, Lucia, is in it, the power difference with this game is just too big. One step to space, one step back to Earth, repeating that the balance is ridiculously broken, and this guy knows that no one would believe it. But instead of disbelief, the situation now makes sense to him. As those wyverns were about to devour Woojoo, he called out to Lucia, telling her that it's hard to control the power she gave him. So, he asked for advice on how he's supposed to use it correctly. Lucia asked him if he really needed to ask something like that as a god. Lucia advised him to punch towards the sky, so the earth doesn't split apart. Woojoo remembered that there was such a universal rule in his dad's novel, an earth-loving universe, so the earth doesn't split, punch towards the sky. Then, bam, a huge explosion happened. Lucia was quite happy, saying that it didn't reach beyond the solar system. The power is also about that of a mid-boss in the original dungeon. Woojoo thinks that it would be so in the world Lucia lives in. More importantly, it seems that the entire habitat got swept away. Woojoo starts to wonder if the wyvern's eggs are still there. Then the system pops up, saying that there are only 7 minutes remaining until the quest deadline and that he needs to deliver 5 wyvern's eggs. Woojoo thinks that it looks like the eggs are somewhere, but the time right now is tight. He bids goodbye to Lucia, saying that he will be off this time. As he is about to take one step, he suddenly stops, thinking that was too close. He calls Lucia, asking if the situation is over now, and if he can release that power. Lucia just laughs at him, saying that the body's total magic is not a joke. The special ability of the Great Demon King is that it is a permanent bestowal. Woojoo asks her to release the power right now, because he can't take a single step. But Lucia says that he is someone who just lacks training. Even as Woojoo calls her a bastard, begging to release it, there is nothing that the Demon King can do, and right now, every moment is a crisis. That day, the Wyvern Gorge turned into ruins. But after a week, the greatness of nature breathed life back into the barren land. For a week, this guy looked like an innocent puppy, staring up at the birds. He was still standing for a week without even moving an inch. Woojoo started peeking on the other side, seeing that the other players were enjoying taking all the wyvern eggs. Those players were so happy, wondering where all the wyverns went, because the daily quest had become a piece of cake. With that amount of money they got, they could buy the things they wanted, like sneakers or other desired items. This made Woojoo jealous, because even though he was an overpowered character, there was nothing he could do. He received an absurd power, and it's been a week, and he still couldn't take a single step from that place. Just one step was enough to send him to space. For him, there was no time for giving up. There was a huge bill at the snack bar of 38,001, eating school meals twice, washing hands with water, life as a bread shuttle, and many other bills piling up. But this guy is Kim Woojoo, who doesn't give in to despair. For him right now, he needs to think more smartly. This is because of full acceleration firmly pushing the ground. He needs to be calm and composed, leaning back as much as possible as he steps forward. His strategy is to touch the ground and then shift his weight, and he calls it airwalk. He was planning to walk lightly, which he thought would be easier than expected, but within a split second, he was sent into outer space. He realized that it doesn't work like that. He was thinking that if he got bounced into space with just a small touch, he just needed to make zero contact area by smoothly dragging his feet backward, which becomes what is called a moonwalk. But after doing a small moonwalk like Michael Jackson, the whole ground started to split apart. He started to question what happened to this tofu-like ground as it split apart everywhere. He could only laugh, thinking it was ridiculous, and started thinking maybe he should grow wings instead. But by only fanning his arms like wings, he was sent again into outer space, and he started to question if this meant he could fly like that. He could only sigh, because no matter what the situation is, it is too absurd. But he only just took a breath, and that breath sent him into outer space once again. Lucia, who was watching him on the other side, burst into laughter, asking him what he was doing, because it was too funny to watch him alone. Lucia told him that there's never been anyone as funny as Woojoo in the demon realm. He could only glare at Lucia because this Demon King was at fault in the first place. The strongest villain in power novels of all time, the one who even caused his father, the original author, to develop PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. He remembered the time when his father was so stressed, thinking about what he should do because he couldn't remember a way to defeat Lucia. And he told young Woojoo at that time that he was now scared of power fantasy novels. And right now, Woojoo is the kind of being that has been endowed with power. Lucia never stops teasing this poor MC and asks him if he has something more interesting because she wants him to show it to her. But Woojoo, thinking carefully, started thinking that maybe he brought this upon himself. The reason the situation is like this is because of him. He definitely went to his dad's study after seeing a home shopping ad. He was the one who took out the limited edition book. Immediately after he opened the case and received the gift, the Demon King appeared. The reason Demon King Lucia appeared in this game was really because of him. So he starts to get serious, thinking that he has to find a way to lift this curse. Woojoo asks Lucia what if the power she gives him fades. But Lucia assured him that he doesn't need to worry because it is a permanent endowment, and it lasts forever. Lucia started showing off her tongue, saying that if she died suddenly, it might be lifted, but as an immortal being, she doubted that it would happen. Woojoo was thinking that there is no other choice except that it can be solved through death. Like the two rivals in the movie, Woojoo starts calling Lucia's name again and again. He points his finger towards Lucia, asking if she can't understand the situation, because right now, all she will have will be regrets. He told Lucia to stay put because soon he promised that he would crush that smug face of hers. Lucia commended the spirit of Woojoo, then the poor MC logs out of the game. Woojoo thinks that right now all he needs to do is to find a way to deal with this. And he also noticed that the key was hanging around his neck as it previously was. Setting aside, he starts to question why this necklace came back for him. Maybe he got another chance to try again. That means by finding another original work in his dad's study, he can finish off Lucia. So he rushes towards his dad's study place, thinking that he has to summon a new strongest character to defeat Lucia. While scanning like he was the Flash, he starts to question which genre or which hero and what book has the best character. Since he was young, his dad's web novels were like his fairy tales and textbooks. He was always the first to review when a new work was released. But while looking at all the books, he thought there was no book that he found interesting. He wanted to find the one who would be Lucia's nemesis, a world's strongest who can be controlled, not a mad, reckless maniac. Then, something caught his attention that made him stop looking at other books. He thought, is this the book that would have me kill Lucia? Although it was a dangerous genre, for him, there was no other choice. It was a crisis, and he couldn't afford to hesitate. If he hesitated, he wouldn't be able to even make a living. Suddenly, a bright light appeared as he opened another book. Of course, it was another entity case, but he was alarmed when there was nothing on the right. Later, he received a gift. It had already arrived. He put on the virtual reality device, still doubting if he made the right choice, because this one was even more dangerous in terms of killing power. Before receiving the gift, Woojoo wanted to see what kind of timing it had. At that time, Lucia was about to be executed by the heroes. It was in the second half of Volume 8 where Lucia was brought to the brink of execution. Thus, the limited edition case appeared at a certain time in the novel. It seemed to be a way of pulling out, but before logging in, Woojoo planned to check for a secure place, because right now, he couldn't move an inch. He looked for a checkpoint and chose the Bipedal snowfield because it was sparsely populated. As he logged in, he was transported to the chosen place. He looked into the notification and accepted the gift, thinking it was time. The summon started showing off, because it seemed he did it after all. The only thing in the game, Woojoo never thought that he would actually encounter the killer named Zero, who looked like an innocent child with no top dress. For Woojoo, the timing was even easier to understand than Lucia's arrival, because it could be confirmed by the killer ranking on the shoulder. Still, Zero was at 2 stars, so Woojoo thought that he must be from the time before escaping from the training camp. The only killer from his dad's Munchkin novel. For those who don't know, a Munchkin novel refers to novels with an overpowered protagonist. At that time, Zero awakened to 5 stars after leaving the assassination organization and severing the necks of 30 billion people. The time it took to reach that number was barely 0.00001 seconds. Moreover, the agility was the official speed of light multiplied by 10 trillion times. Bro was faster than the Flash. Woojoo thought that this method of contact was too risky for someone like him, but there was no other way to defeat Demon King Lucia. Even during his training days, Number 0 was a demon itself with no emotions other than murderous intent. That was what Woojoo was aiming for. So he started opening the item box because he would use that to make Zero his own. He started scanning the item which suited Zero the most and thought that was the one he must pick. Zero, who has a murderous mentality, starts pulling the strings and then blinks towards where Woojoo is standing. But Woojoo is still scanning the item box, but at that time, the wire was already put by Zero on the neck of Woojoo. He told Zero that he didn't need to do that because he would give him a gift. It was a Ninja Husky design basic fit short sleeve men's t-shirt and black 2-button fleece skinny jeans. After receiving that gift, Zero decided to jump back away from Woojoo. He was confused by the clothes that were given to him. For Woojoo, who had already read the web novels, being naked was basic at the training camp, so he knew that Zero probably had never worn clothes before. He told Zero that he was such a poor thing, and hoped that he felt warm now. because it must be his first time feeling like that. Zero felt nice for the concern of Woojoo. He looks at Woojoo like a sparkling angel who could offer him salvation in life. Zero, for the first time, felt something strange. The concern he didn't feel at the camp was given to him by Woojoo. He started to look at Woojoo in a positive light, but Woojoo knew that he still couldn't move an inch from where he was standing. Woojoo realized that as he tried to stay through this mission in the story, he kept slipping into a nerdy tone. So he told Zero to come closer because if he moved, he knew it would be bad for Zero. Zero suddenly blinks in front of Woojoo so quickly that it didn't even take a second. Woojoo started putting the scarf on the neck of Zero because he had read the web novel. If this turns into BL, I will drop this. Going back, it all started when a female researcher called Laura freed Zero. From then on, Zero began to feel warmth for the first time, even in moments when he was about to become a demon in fierce battles. Zero was a cyclical character who returned to his original self, thanks to the warmth Laura instilled in him. Therefore, Woojoo gave him a scarf and put it on his neck. From now on, Woojoo planned to be a Laura for him. He was sorry. He felt seriously sorry when he thought about it again. As a reward for Zero's suffering in the training camp, he was supposed to have a nice female protagonist in a bright roadmap waiting for him. But just when Zero decided to live, he got caught up in a devilish development made by Woojoo. So, this guy thinks he is definitely the #1 person to kill. Still, since Zero has no concept of gender yet, Woojoo guesses his feelings are kind of similar. Zero looked at Woojoo like a handsome, sparkling angel. Woojoo told Zero that the scarf he gave him is a premium item, and this scarf wouldn't let him feel cold anymore. Zero started blushing. He was as red as an apple. He could only agree to what this manipulative MC said. To mention the title of the novel has assassination as its theme. Along with that, his dad made it in a genre that doesn't even follow trends. The title for this novel is The Killer Still Loves Today, which is so cringy. It is actually a romance web novel. But since he was able to manipulate Zero, Woojoo thinks he succeeded this time, but his conscience is bothering him a bit. For him, like a baby duck recognizing the first thing it sees as its parents, the imprinting effect will wear off soon, so it doesn't matter. Until then, he plans to make Zero his loyal dog. He was blaming that because of the damn special key, he hadn't been able to complete the daily quest for a week. Woojoo asked Zero if he would come with him, and the loyal dog that was manipulated could only agree, nodding his head up and down at the speed of light. Woojoo thinks it is a good sign since it went as planned. But there's one problem remaining. The killer grade is still at level 2. To capture Lucia, Zero needs to be at least level 3. Woojoo thinks that it seems like Zero needs to have a trial to level up. Suddenly, some monsters appeared, shocking and alarming Woojoo. It was a large monster called snow rabbits, and they were coming in a horde, preparing to gang up on these two guys. Woojoo started panicking inside, thinking there was an emergency and that they were screwed. But since he wore a still mask skin, he maintained a poker face even in that situation. While Woojoo was panicking, Zero pointed his fingers at him and burst into laughter. Woojoo remembered that he is an overpowered being right now, but he started to question why that reaction was really annoying. It was the same face when Lucia was laughing at him. He told Zero to step back for a moment, thinking it wouldn't hurt to show off his strength at this opportunity. He glared at Zero, telling him to watch closely because these are the consequences of making him angry. As he was about to release a single punch, Woojoo hoped that the earth wouldn't split apart. He called that attack, Fist Towards the Sky. But the snow rabbits started digging underground. Woojoo was quite confused, asking why they hid underground like that. He wondered if his power gave them a hint, but for him, it was an absurd situation because they were suddenly crawling underground like that. Woojoo was panicking because he couldn't attack towards the ground or the whole planet would be destroyed, and not knowing if Lucia's given power effects included defense. Woojoo thought that this time he would be caught by the snow rabbits. But Zero didn't care at all. He just laughed at the poor Woojoo. At that moment, a large lump of snow fell on Zero's cherished clothes, and because of that, he started crying. Zero began to change. The real awakening happened so suddenly. In 0.00000001 seconds, the stars on his shoulder started to increase until they reached 5 stars, which signified his true awakening. At this time, Woojoo could only take cover as he was about to be devoured by the snow rabbit monster. A string of wires was released by Zero, with just one cut. All of the snow rabbits were killed instantly, and the snow was also cut in half, clearing the whole land. But that didn't end with just one cut. Zero released 100 trillion cuts, and the entire snowfield was destroyed, leaving only the land where Woojoo was standing. Woojoo now understood the effect of the 5-star ultimate skill, which was 100 trillion cuts. He started to wonder how Zero used it, considering this ultimate skill couldn't normally be used since Zero was just a 2-star at that time. But Woojoo remembered something. Zero's ultimate skill consumed stars to activate. This meant the stars slowly faded. Woojoo began calling for Zero because his shoulder no longer had stars left. He started to question why Zero was still smiling after using all those stars. Since he needed to be at least a 3-star to catch Lucia, Woojoo wondered how they would catch her now that Zero didn't have any stars left.